Do you believe that good and evil exist?
I've wanted to make another video for a while, and though I have lots of ideas, I was looking for a softball that would be really easy to respond to. And then, as if Jesus himself answered my prayers, Dennis Prager pooped this one out from his so-called university. And also, by the way, I'm still trying to get a final avatar, but in the meantime, you're stuck with this wiener dog. So, I really don't know that much about Dennis Prager other than what I've seen in some interviews. And from what I've seen, it seems like he's a pretty well-intentioned guy with a really dangerously simplistic view of morality.
I knew communism was evil, and my life is devoted to fighting evil. That's what I care about more than anything. I hate people who hurt people deliberately. I hate them. I want them destroyed. I want evil destroyed. I have not wavered in that passion since high school. That's all I care about a million things, but that's my greatest care. I want to destroy evil.
Okay, I can relate. Even myself, I get a gleeful satisfaction in seeing wrongdoers punished. But it starts to get dangerous when you begin arbitrarily labeling people as evil, often based on bad information. So anyway, what was the question again?
Do you believe that good and evil exist?
Well, I believe they exist, but not in any magical sense, only to the extent that we call things that we think are really harmful as evil, or the opposite as good. There isn't some objective property of the universe that it is good or evil, any more than there's some objective property of the universe that determines whether food is objectively delicious or disgusting.
The answer to this question separates Judeo-Christian values,
or just about any other religion's values,
from secular values.
Oh, here we go.
Is murder wrong?
Yes, I think murder is wrong.
Is it evil?
Yeah, to the extent that I think really, really bad things are evil.
Nearly everyone would answer yes.
Well, of course they would, because we all pretty much went down the same evolutionary path, so we have extremely similar values of life and aversion to suffering, etc. It's no surprise that we would all answer yes.
But now I will pose a much harder question. How do you know?
Oops, I already answered. Sorry. Oh, but wait, you don't believe in evolution. That's right.
If I asked you how you know that the Earth is round, you would show me photographs from outer space or offer me measurable data. But what photographs could you show? What measurements could you provide that prove that murder or rape or theft is wrong?
Oh, easy. Just ask people if they think it's wrong. See, you're unfoundedly assuming that there's some objectively right answer when it's actually subjective. That's your key misunderstanding. So to get the answer, you ask subjects, i.e. people.
There are scientific facts, but without God, there are no moral facts.
No, sorry, moral decrees are not equivalent to moral facts. Further, you can't just make a giant leap to think that moral facts imply a magical being. There are, in fact, plenty of secularists who can present arguments for objective morality. Now, granted, these arguments are dumb and they're wrong, but they're not any dumber than your argument. In fact, they don't rely usually on an unproven magical being. That's kind of the epitome of dumb arguments.
In a secular world, there can only be opinions about morality.
Yeah, I hate to break it to you, but that's the world you live in already. It's all opinions. It's just that some of them are based on actual critical analysis and others are based on superstition. Which would you prefer?
Every atheist philosopher I have read or debated on this subject has acknowledged that if there is no God, there is no objective morality.
One, you need to talk to more atheists then. And two, I'm pretty sure they didn't start with the whole if there is no God part. They just told you there's no objective morality.
Judeo-Christian values are predicated on the existence of a God of morality. In other words, only if there is a God who says murder is murder wrong?
This statement you just made, as a grown adult, is pretty much identical to the rebuttal that I would make to that statement. So I'm not really sure how to proceed with that one.
Without God, we therefore end up with what is known as moral relativism.
No, following your prior logic, we'd end up with moral subjectivism, which is an important difference, but it's not really relevant to this point, so I won't go into it here.
Without God, the words good and evil are just another way of saying I like and I don't like.
Well, that's oversimplifying, but it's essentially expressing an opinion about what you think is really helpful and virtuous or excessively harmful.
If there is no God, the statement murder is evil is the same as the statement I don't like murder.
Sorry, I really like the way he says that.
Murder, 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 murder.
Well, you explained it like a 5-year-old, but if I translate your meaning and grow it up a little bit, it's like saying murder is really harmful and we strongly oppose the effects it has on people and societies, etc. And when you get enough people agreeing on these values, you start formulating rules of society. That's what we've always done.
Now, many will argue that you don't need moral absolutes. People won't murder because they don't want to be murdered. But that argument is just wishful thinking. Hitler, Stalin, and Mao didn't want to be murdered, but that hardly stopped them from murdering about 100 million people.
Yeah, just because people in general agree upon moral standards, it doesn't mean that there won't still be some people who violate these standards. And that'll be true whether or not morality is absolute.
It is not a coincidence that the rejection of Judeo-Christian values in the Western world by Nazism and communism led to the murder of all these innocent people.
Are you really that clueless? What about all the people murdered in the name of Christianity?
It is also not a coincidence that the first societies in the world to abolish slavery, an institution that existed in every known society in human history, were Western societies rooted in Judeo-Christian values.
You are aware that the Bible condones slavery, right? You are a grown, presumably educated adult. How can you possibly have such a simplistic worldview and the reasoning ability of a small child?
What would you say if you found out that our public schools were teaching children that it is not true that it's wrong to kill people for fun?
I would assume that they were teaching a very important lesson about the nature of morality that went beyond our simplistic grade school understanding.
The overwhelming majority of college freshmen view moral claims as mere opinions.
So in other words, they're already way ahead of you and you've got a lot of catching up to do.
So then, whatever you believe about God or religion, here is a fact.
Okay, good. I am starving at this point for anything resembling a fact in your argument.
Without a God who is the source of morality, morality is just a matter of opinion.
No, that's not a fact. That's ironically your opinion, and it's a completely unsubstantiated belief of yours.
If you want a good world, the death of Judeo-Christian values should frighten you.
No, it doesn't. What frightens me is the idea that people base their morality off of superstitious beliefs rather than critically analyzing what is helpful and harmful to ourselves and each other.
I'm Dennis Prager.
To your credit, that was an actual fact. Thank you. So a couple extra points to add. If you look at the diversity of polarized opinions about morality within Christianity itself, that tells you that belief in God certainly doesn't unify moral standards very well. And you might argue that this is just because some people aren't properly following the Christian religion in your own pet way. Well, sure. Let's follow this line of reasoning and assume that there are actual objective moral standards, but they're just not agreed upon because they're undiscoverable in any sort of reliable way. Well, then what is the difference between a world in which there are objective moral standards, but nobody seems to agree what they are, versus a world in which there are no objective moral standards? In the first case, the best we can do is just reason with each other about what we think the best moral guidelines should be, and try to come up with some sort of compromise that works for everyone. And guess what? In the second case, we do exactly the same thing. And that's precisely what we do right now. Your superstitious, unfounded beliefs give you absolutely nothing in terms of morality, and we'd be much better off if we had a reality-based approach in which we critically examine what leads to the best outcome for all of us.